chair of the Global Black Caucus.
And I'm Adrienne. I lead our caucus's Get Out the Vote team.
Welcome to the Power to the People podcast.
2025, and we're in our season of opposition.
And we will not obey in advance. Power to the people. Three, two. Welcome to the Power to the People podcast, everyone. This
Right
is
on,
Angela
right on.
and Adrienne. Yay, she's here with us today too. We've just come off of the No Kings Day event, or no tyrants, or no dictators, wherever you are, because in different countries, definitely that have kings, you can't say no kings. So
Yeah, over here in Sweden, actually, 3 events. I'm so proud of little old Sweden, but they were no tyrant events. And I think it was the same weekend that one of the princesses got baptized. So I don't know why I mentioned that. Oh, I guess to say, yeah, you can have a royal family and not have a tyrant. We try to have a president who's not going to be a tyrant or a
that's
king
right.
or a dictator.
Yeah, or
But
just
what,
an asshole, like for real. Like Donald Trump is a bad person. He has,
well, I was going to say, being an asshole, we've had asshole presidents before. But would you say in our lifetimes or modern time, definitely the most tyrannical? But you know what? People say he doesn't do what he says he's going to do. He does. Or people say politicians don't do what they say they're going to do. Well, let me rephrase that. He does. He says, I'm going to be a dictator from day one. And
yes,
what are we in day 100 and whatever? He's more
it's
dictators than ever.
100 and like 150 there on the
How
day
we
that we're recording.
survived. Well,
I don't
how,
know, but it was, yeah, this is going to be a hard next thousand something days. But we're going to
but,
make it because we're together.
and talk about together. So the No Kings, do you know how many marches there were in total?
There were more than 2,100 around the world and throughout Europe and Canada and Mexico. There were probably about 25.
Wow. And I saw pictures of Asia. I know Cambodia, I remember seeing. Um, I don't know if they were out on the motherland. Um, I think even in Iceland, you mentioned Europe. But people, I don't
Yeah.
know if people think of Iceland and Europe, but I believe even in Iceland.
Yeah, that there were everywhere. Well, not everywhere in Europe, but in a lot of the places. We had one in Germany. We had five, I believe. Frankfurt and Hamburg, Berlin, Munich, and Heidelberg. We had protests, and I think there was also one in Freiburg too. So that's six.
Yeah, I don't know if you were outdone by France, but I think they had at least five too. They were like, we're getting out.
Well,
I
yeah,
know
the one
Marseille,
in
Paris.
Paris. I wish I could have been there. I'm not kidding, because it was, even though ours was great, they had theirs at the Bastille, which is like some great imagery. For people who don't know, the Bastille is where when they overthrew their kings, they locked them up and then they like executed them there. So it was
Like the
primo.
guillotine, pretty
Yep.
gruesome, and people would stand out and watch. So we're not advocating anything like that, no type of violence. And for the vast
No,
majority, these protests were peaceful, right?
yeah, they were incredibly peaceful. I mean, they were very peaceful. Millions of people came out. I don't know if the ones in Sweden, if you, I heard this time and time again, a lot of people spoke. I must have spoke to like actually had a conversation with like 100 people or so. Um, and a lot of these people told me they'd never been out to protest before. They'd never done any, not the Women's March, which was, pretty tame, or anything else. So I was really proud that so many Americans abroad came out to show.
Yeah, I have a friend in a, she's a former member of one of the American women's clubs here, and her husband's friend was turning 60, and she said, "You know what? I decided I just can't go. I have to go." And she took a train down to the closest city in Sweden, and she'd never done it before. And she ended up, they said, "Does anybody want to speak?" She ended up getting there speaking, getting
Wow.
quoted in the newspaper, and is in a TV clip. I was like, "I'm
Oh
so
my
proud of you."
God. Wow.
Yeah, because she's been one of the millions of Americans that are filled with anguish. And every day I was like, "You got to stop watching the news." It's like, "You got to stop watching the news." Because every day, as the news came out as part of their overwhelm plan, she would get more and more overwhelmed and more angry and despondent and afraid for loved ones at home. So this made her feel like she could do something. She found her voice. And I said, couple that with calling your senators and reps, and you're on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, ironically, we had people from all over Germany. And if people don't know this, Germany is really huge. And it's also very heavily populated. It's one of the largest populations in Europe. There's almost 90 million people that live here. And so even though there were five different places. They're kind of like spread far apart.
Six.
It's
Yeah.
six. Yeah, they're kind of spread far apart. And Frankfurt, where we were, it's in the center of Germany, and we had people from all over Germany. And we also had people who were Americans who were on vacation or on business in Germany. And they had thought that they were going to miss the protest because they were out of the country, and they were really
Yeah.
happy to find us.
I saw that on the Swedish news too, because I was watching all the clips that people sent in. And this one guy was like, "Yeah, we're just here as tourists." And we were like, "We're so happy to join in because we're not happy at home, with what's going on." And I just want to say, one of our chapters in Sweden, a brand new chapter, I can't say at the very north, but way up north for me, way up north, had their first, we at our first meeting, executive committee meeting earlier this month. We approved them as a chapter. They already had an event. They had a picnic. They made the local paper on No
Wow.
King's Day. Yeah. So this is an excellent opportunity for Americans everywhere to claim your voice. If you were not paying attention before or feeling despondent, check in with democratsabroad.org. And I want to say /resist, but I
That's
don't know
right.
if is that it?
That's it.
Yeah, because what are they going to find on that page?
When you go to the resistance page, you're going to find resistance events, and they've been going on since January 20th. And you'll also find information about the latest, thing that you need to contact your senator. You'll find information about other materials you can use to educate yourself there. You can find information. You can join our mailing list so that you automatically get when something pops off. You get an email that says, "Here's what's happening," and now you can take some kind of action. So it's really important that people like sign up for the resistance, and we don't ever sell our mailing list or anything like that. So no worries, nobody's ever going to find out. You're just going to get a discreet little email that says, "Here's what you need to do," or "Here's what's happening in your area." and then you can take action from there. It's very it's a lot of different chapters and country committees. They have resistance, ongoing resistance activities. Um, Resistance roundtables where people discuss what they can do, where different there's a I don't belong to this, but there's a resistance book club where they read various books or articles and discuss and try to see how you can integrate those into your actual resistance, the information into your actual resistance. And we just all have to do something. Just take that one small step, and for a lot of people, it was No King's Day to take that step to say, you're not taking this, you're
Listen,
not
one of the
sitting
calls
down.
to action, yeah, was to ask people to come out with American flags. Did you have an American flag? And did you see a lot of
Yes.
American flags?
Yes. Well, okay. People can't see this. They can't see me, but I have two American flags right behind me. So I am the queen of American flags. I have all sorts of decorations, and a lot of it comes from like when we do tabling events or we're at some kind of a festival or something like that. I just want people to be clear, like we're Americans. And so if you're American, come on over.
Yeah, we're taking the flag back. We're taking patriotism back. I don't, it got hijacked somehow that if you
Yeah.
weren't a Republican, you weren't a patriot. That was never true.
That was never true. These people are not patriots. They do not obey, they do not defend and support the Constitution. I don't know if I've ever said this on this show, but I say it a lot whenever I do TV or whatever, that I I took an oath to the Constitution to protect and defend the Constitution from enemies, foreign and domestic. And when I took this oath, right before I did it, uh, everyone who works for the government, not just military people, but everyone from the president to the man who cleans the toilets, if he's a government employee, takes this oath. So none of our congressional representatives, Republicans, they all talk a lot about the Constitution, but they are doing nothing to support and defend it. And when I took this oath, I don't know, it was a long time ago. That was a long time ago that I took this oath, and I really had to stop and think because I'd never had a job where I had to actually take an oath. And I
It's like
stopped.
you
I really,
joining a cult.
yeah, because I was, yeah, that's what it seems like, but it wasn't. It just means that what you do, you should not be doing things that are going to harm our nation or its people, or the break the law, or do things that are against the Constitution. I think that maybe other people didn't take it as seriously as I did, but it's one reason why I do this work. Um,
Well, I think we have an attorney general that doesn't know what's in the Constitution
no,
because when they
she
bring her
doesn't
up for a
know.
hearing, she doesn't know what habeas corpus is. But speaking of speeches, didn't you give a speech
I did. I
at what's
did
it
give a
called? No
speech.
King's Day
No
in
King's Day.
Germany.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
you got
Germany
rid
it's
of your
fine.
royalty.
We never had a king in Germany.
You had aristocracy.
Yeah, they just had a lot of dukes and lords and all this other stuff, so it was quite easy to get rid of. Um, but yeah, I
Sent
did.
them to Germany, pretty much. I'm sorry, you sent them to the United Kingdom, pretty much, to England.
Yes, that's right. They all left and went over there where they could be, whatever. But but we have a long tradition of no kings in Germany, so it was really okay for us to say no kings. Yeah, we had a lot of people come. We had, oh my gosh, we had people from Luxembourg come, and because they weren't having an event, and this Frankfurt was their closest place. We had a couple of people from Ireland, Americans that lived in Ireland, show up. They were there for they had come to Germany for some meeting or something like that.
Okay, yeah, because
And
Ireland had some events, so they were
yeah, they
there,
had some events, but
showed
they
up.
came to ours, and I mean, it was very amazing. And I have to say, I mean, not to brag or something like this, but I got into, I got into the paper. They quoted me in the paper, which is always nice. I didn't know they were doing it. Somebody showed it to me afterwards. I'm just a speech giver. I don't, I'm not looking for press. Well, I mean, I sort of am, but in a way,
Did
but
you have on your vote from abroad t-shirt?
I did not. I had on a t-shirt that said Los Angeles, California on it in solidarity with the people in Los Angeles. So I just
Nice
thought
one.
I would, yeah, that I just had to support them because what's happening there uh is really untenable. And the president of the United States, Donald Trump, said this won't be the first, that he's cracking down on blue cities where all these millions of immigrants are. But we know that's not where they are. They're on the farms picking things and working in restaurants, which he's decided to leave alone. People in the hospitality industry and people that are doing farm work. Because I guess the pictures, I don't know if you've seen any of these pictures where the ICE agents are chasing people through fields to round them up.
I haven't seen the pictures, but it's because those industry leaders said you're going to crash us down, and he got them to move faster or whatever. Because it's, he doesn't care about optics. Because there's a lot of people that like that. They're like, get him, and you see people in the comments, you know, coming to troll the No King's Day stuff. Then the immigrants, they just think here immigrant. But here's what I wonder, and this is an unofficial survey. How many people, cabinet members, have immigrant wives or wives that came from immigrant families?
Oh,
Well, from the White House down to
well, yeah, the White
a lot
House.
of MAGA. I mean, JD Vance's wife, isn't were her parents Indian
Yes,
immigrants?
her
I don't
parents
know
were
if she
Indian
was.
immigrants.
I don't
I
know if
don't
she
know if she
was.
was either, but it's her parents were immigrants. All these people have some,
We know
how
the
can I
Trump
put this?
was,
Yeah, except the middle one, the American one was,
the Maple who got in and out.
hmm she got
She did
away
have a
quickly.
kid though. She did have a kid. I don't
She
know
did
what
have
it
a kid,
is.
but she got away quick. She just decided, I guess this
She
man is
wrecked the
crazy.
marriage and got out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but there are a lot of people that have an immigrant background. Um, Not
I
all of
don't think they
us.
understand what they mean. They think it excludes them, is what it is. Just like a lot of people that
Well,
voted and they thought, oh, I'm
Stephen Miller.
Cuban. I'm gonna keep my exceptionalism. Stephen Miller, who's he? I don't know.
Stephen Miller is the whack job that is he's
I
the
think it's a Steve
architect of
Miller
the.
band.
No, they're nice people. Stephen Miller is that guy, this ugly young guy who oh my God, Elon Musk took his wife. Um, Maybe no, you don't know about that either. All right.
No, I don't know about the tech bro
Well,
depravity.
anyway, but his family is Jewish, if you can believe that, and he's the one that's instigating and planning all these ICE raids to get rid of all the immigrants out of the country. And his family came to the United States as refugees.
Yeah,
I,
it's sick and twisted. And it's almost like that experiment. I think it was done in the West Coast University. I don't remember how many decades earlier, where the students, some were prison guards and some were prisoners, and they had to stop the experiment because the prison guards got the role play, they got too cruel. You
yes,
know, it was like hours into the experiment. They're like, we have to stop it. They became cruel and the prisoners were cowering. So we didn't see a lot of bravery come out of that, but we saw a lot of cruelty
yes,
come
and
out of that.
that's
So this kind of what we see going on now. These people in power and they're being making decisions that are cruel, enacting policies that are cruel instead of questioning them and pushing back. We're
yes.
waiting for the military leaders, or are we hearing about Marines that were like, I'm not going to LA.
Well, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that, but they're not exactly doing anything yet. I've seen pictures of them with their poorly planned mission to LA, sleeping on the floor of a warehouse or something like this on concrete floors. And it's just kind of ridiculous, like there's plenty of hotels in California, you know. You don't
It's
have
truly
to.
ridiculous. They can build proper shelter. I mean, if nothing else, you're combat ready, but you're not on a combat mission. So I'm glad you're not setting up tent cities, or campgrounds, I should say. But I want to hear your speech from Saturday.
All right. I will cue it up and wait, let me just make sure I
So give
have.
us some background. So who organized it? What was going on? How did you get on the speakers list? What was the flow of the program?
Well, I was actually, I think I was maybe the second or third speaker. Um, the the event was organized by Democrats Abroad by the chapter that I'm in, and so I'm I'm on the speakers list. We'll just put it that way.
Let me ask you
I
this.
always got something to say. So
I know you always got something to say and you're going to say it. Now, I know in Sweden, you have to get a police permit, which is
yes, you
not
have that.
expensive and approved, and sometimes they leave you hanging, and so some organizers feel the last minute. So the process in Germany is similar.
Yeah, it we applied for a permit. We were at the Alta Opa, which is the old opera house, which is still active. It's just there's a new opera house also. That's why this is the old one. And it's a pretty frequented place. It's near where a lot of the restaurants are in downtown Frankfurt. So there's always tons of people there, so it's an open place, very nice. And it has a plaza, but it has steps leading up to the opera house where we could set up and put our microphones and speakers and stuff. So it's kind of it's a good place for, you know.
Now, so that process is be just as easy for the Nazis to get a permit to because you say the Nazis always come to your town, so they get the police permit and everything. There's no reason the police would say no. Like, what do you have to say no? I
Well,
mean, what do you have to say you're gonna do for the police to say you can't have a
I
permit?
honestly, I'm not sure that there is too much that you can, I mean, politically wise that you could do. I'm sure that they say no for events, like if somebody wanted to have like a fest or something, maybe at this place, maybe not, but I don't know. But yeah, the Nazis, they come to my town they don't call themselves the Nazis, but we know who they are. And the city tried to stop them once, and it went to court, and basically they said as long as they don't do certain things, I mean, you can't do a Heil Hitler salute, you can't wear, any kind
So
of
they won't be
Nazi.
inviting
uh,
Elon to come be their keynote speaker.
no, they will not, because he can't control himself. He has to, do his Nazi salute or whatever. um but yeah, there's a lot of things that you can't do in Germany,
No
like
swastikas.
no, no swastikas, no. That's in German. That's a Hakenkreuz. Very nice name, nice word. Sounds.
Sounds like hate crime, but it's like a taboo or something.
Yeah. There's a lot of, so as long as they don't do any of that kind of weird stuff, they can come. And when they come, the police are like, our city isn't on lockdown or anything like that, but it's just they cordon off a lot of stuff because there is a strong anti-fascism movement here, anti-Nazi movement here, and it always dwarfs the Nazis that come. I don't even know why they come, except just to be a thorn in everybody's side. Um, yeah, but you know,
So no pro-fascist counter protests to your No Kings event.
no, no, no. It was super peaceful, super nice. Everybody was great. And let's hear my speech. Here we go.
Chapter of Democrats Abroad, and I vote in Florida. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you for standing up against fascism and tyranny. Thank you for refusing to stay silent while our country is being dragged down by corruption, cruelty, and incompetence. Today is Flag Day. It's also the 250th birthday of our Army, an institution built on service, sacrifice, and the defense of democracy. The Army swears an allegiance to not to the President, not to a party, but to the Constitution of the United States of America. But instead of honoring this legacy with dignity, Donald Trump has decided to mark this day with a bloated, ego-driven military parade, a grotesque spectacle that reeks of authoritarianism and insecurity. Let's be clear. We are not sliding towards fascism. We are living in it. It is not a warning bell, it's an alarm. It's been 146 days since Donald Trump returned to office. Not by merit, not by service, but by lies, voter suppression, judicial manipulation, and unless we act, there are 1,370 more days left in this national nightmare. We cannot wait. We cannot normalize this. Trump must be impeached. And so must his obedient, dangerous VP, J.D. Vance, another bootlicker who confuses cowardice with loyalty. J.D. Vance is from where I'm from. I hate that. Let's talk about what Trump has done with his time. He shredded the Constitution and worked every day to dismantle the very government he was elected to lead. He's wrecked our economy with illegal tariffs that drove up prices and crushed small businesses. He's turned cruelty into policy, targeting immigrants, transgender Americans, students, public servants, and the vulnerable. Yeah, fuck that guy. It's ironic that people who voted for him thought that they were voting for a strongman leader. And as a result, America has now been perceived as the weakest it's ever been in 80 years.
Taco.
Yeah, taco. It's almost like the people who voted for this president didn't have any idea how anything works. They confused rage for strength, ignorance for authenticity, and now we're all paying the price. He has allowed a conspiracy theorist to dictate health policy while veterans are left waiting for basic services. He has pardoned insurrectionists and weaponized the federal agencies to attack political opponents. This man is a draft-dodging fraud who called our veterans suckers and losers. He dodged the Vietnam draft 5 times. That's 5 other people who had to go in his place. And now, he denies those very veterans their benefits. He's fired more veterans from federal jobs than any president in history. And he's not done yet. He's even fired people who answer the Veterans Crisis Line. So let me say that again. He's fired people who help suicidal veterans. Fuck that guy. That alone should disqualify him from public life forever. But his base, they cheer. They don't care. Because it isn't about policy anymore. It's about power, control, and cruelty. In the past 5 months, we've seen a billionaire president let children go hungry while he enriches himself. We've watched authoritarian tactics escalate, government officials arrested, democratic norms shattered, journalists threatened, protesters tear gassed, and states like California targeted by vague, punitive federal edicts. California will not be the last. The executive order Trump signed had no state named in it. What happened in LA could happen in Denver, or Des Moines, or Detroit, or wherever. That's how fascism works. What is the Congress doing?
Nothing.
Very good. Absolutely jack shit nothing. Because Republicans in the House and Senate have glued themselves to Trump's colon like parasites. They no longer work for the American people. They serve a deranged cult leader. They should not only be voted out, they should be investigated, prosecuted, and held accountable for aiding and abetting this regime. And again, let me be clear. We do not have to become them to beat them. We do not need to mimic their hate, their lies, or their soulless ideology. We must stand for something better, something real, something human. Their entire mission is to force everyone to live the way that they want. Well, I refuse, and I also think you should too. Do not obey in advance. This is how authoritarianism wins. This is how freedom dies. This is the time to draw lines. Either you believe all people deserve human rights, or you don't. Either you believe in democracy, or you believe in power for power's sake. There is no middle ground anymore. Democracy. And where are the so-called constitutional conservatives? Where are all the patriots now? In 2014, Senator Joni Ernst, we all know her, she said, we all die. The only difference is not all of us are killed because they didn't get food or medical treatment. But she said that she called President Obama a dictator and demanded his impeachment for far less than what Trump has done. And yet now, silence, cowardice, and complicity. Trump has been open about his agenda. I don't care about you, I just want your vote. That's what he said on June 9th, 2024. And he's proven it. He doesn't care about the people, he doesn't care about the military, he doesn't care about veterans, immigrants, teachers, or working families. He doesn't even care about the law or the Constitution he swore to defend. What does he care about? That's right. Making money for himself, palling around with dictators, and trying to fill the gaping, needy hole in his soul with endless attention and praise. But he's never going to fill that hole because no one has ever loved him and they never will.
Not even Melania.
No, especially not Melania. He is a felon, a traitor, a malignant narcissist who belongs in prison, not the White House. We must vote out every Republican who enables him, at every level, in every race, from now until they are all gone. And when this is over, and it will be over, we must hold them accountable. We need a new Nuremberg because the crimes being committed are not minor. They are crimes against democracy, crimes against decency, crimes against humanity. Yes, lock him up. No kings, no tyrants, all power to the people. No kings, no tyrants. Impeach Trump, impeach Vance, prosecute the enablers, and above all, resist. Slava Ukraine, and long live the free and the brave. We will not bow.
right.
So
You
what do
didn't
you think?
hold back.
No, no, I didn't. I just never going to have an opportunity to speak. Well, okay, I do probably speak to more people than that on a regular basis, but it was important for me to say that. It just was.
I mean, you
You
called
know,
him out. Did you get everything?
I think I did. I might have left a couple of
But you
things
know what?
unsaid.
This was before we just heard about the new cell phone or something, cell service, something that comes with a gold phone, and I forget what you pay for monthly
Oh
service.
yeah. I saw that, but I was it it's not that it confused me, but I was just like, what? You know what I mean? Like, what? Who?
Well, maybe in a way that's good because not everybody wears a red hat. So if we see him with the phone,
Oh my gosh. But that's the thing about Donald Trump. Everything he does is just to scam people.
I don't know
It
how is he allowed. But then we don't have it in the Constitution. The forefathers didn't foresee this. Nobody said thought that they would see this. What's the word? Opportunistic. Oh my God. And I think
well,
some financial records were finally released because heard something about, I forget what, some millions coming from the Bitcoin something, I think.
yes, yes, his Bitcoin, his meme coin, which is just a ripoff, and that anyone who buys it will just lose money because I didn't say this, but I'll say it next time. Everything Trump touches dies. Everything. There's nothing that he can do. I'm sure if you get this phone and the phone service or whatever, you're probably going to be like, I don't have any bars on my phone. What's the deal with that? Why can't I talk to anyone? Everything he does is a ripoff. Trump
Was the phone
University.
being made in China, I wonder?
Yes, of course it is. Where else are phones made? There's
It used
nowhere
to
else
be
phones
made
are
in
made.
Finland, remember
Oh
Nokia?
yeah,
But I
that's
don't even know if they
true.
were made there. They were a Finnish company, but I don't know where the phones were assembled.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking of the irony. It's so many layers of irony in everything that he does and how people can buy into it and who comes up with it. And that's something that we need to change. The
Well,
presidents
there
can.
actually is something in the
I
Constitution
know there's
about
the
this.
emoluments thing or whatever, the
Emoluments.
emoluments,
Yeah.
but they didn't. But if it's that cut and dry, then why isn't it?
Well,
Who's coming to arrest him?
the problem with a lot of things in our Constitution is that because they were in the Constitution, people didn't make laws for them, you know? And that's what needs to happen when one of the many things that needs to happen once Democrats get back in charge is that we need to lay down some serious laws about what the president can and can't do. Because it's really some there's also a way to keep the Supreme Court from over there's a clause you can put in any legislation that says the Supreme Court doesn't have any like jurisdiction over this. And that needs to be in a lot of things until we can get a Supreme Court that actually follows the Constitution and isn't
But
trying
what's
to.
happening now? The decisions that they've made that would have gone against him, he's not abiding by those. So what's happening? What's missing? What's that missing link?
Well, if you make a law, so it would depend on how the law is structured. Because honestly, what I would say is that all these laws that have something to do with the president, they need to have a clause in there that automatically triggers, you know, an impeachment. Like that there is no you cannot do these things if you're found guilty of these breaking these laws. It's automatic. Like the impeachment starts. We've got to change some things. The German government
And
is way it's a parliamentary system, but it also has the divisions between the branches of government are pretty are way more extreme than they are in the United States. And we need something like that to like so that no one person can commandeer the whole government, you know?
Is it wrong to think that those came in after Hitler? So we have to do this
Yes.
after Trump?
They
So, I
it
mean, we
came
have
after
this
Hitler,
enlightenment.
yes.
Well, this enlightenment will come after that. So
I
German
hope
government's
so.
older and didn't is older than the U.S. government, right? And didn't see a need until they had this
Well,
Austrian guy come in. But
no, actually it isn't. This is the weird thing about Germany is that Germany wasn't unified into one country until the late 19th century. It was before then, it was a lot of little fiefdoms, and it wasn't one whole country. This is why they never had a king. There, you've never heard of the King of Germany because there was never one whole country. So it's a
well,
little
that's
bit
a
different.
shame because they had a couple hundred years to get it right based on our Constitution. And again, don't see the need to have such fail-safes when you
Yeah.
think it's people are going to pretty much use common sense or be honorable.
Well,
But history's taught
uh,
us that that's not the case.
no.
Even the most honorable men are not honorable in a lot of
Yes,
cases.
that is
Speaking
correct.
of an unhonorable man, okay, who a moment of silence for the lives that were lost in Minnesota for just
Mhm.
putting your hand up and saying, I love my country, I love my state, I love my community, that I'm going to dedicate my life to public service. I'm going to give the best of who I am. I could have done anything else, but I
Yeah,
chose this.
yeah. That's what
Heartbreaking
happened.
what happened.
It's heartbreaking and also very frightening that I don't know if you or our listeners recall that nothing like this, but that back in the first Trump administration, there were a whole bunch of these, Trump people who decided to take matters into their own
Well, they tried to
hands.
kidnap Governor Gretch.
That's right. That's right. They tried to kidnap uh Big Gretch. And there was also, if you remember this guy, Cesar Sayoc, he he had a mail bomb plot that it was so weird because if you he had a van that was covered in all this Trump stuff, and he started leaving mail bombs. Um
So he
and
thought he'd
they
be
were
inconspicuous with the Trump van, like nobody would
no,
remember seeing him.
I think I think he was very mentally like, deranged.
Okay, I
But
don't want to
yeah,
go completely off script, but you can't help but noticing why everybody who's human, right, is devastated by what happened. Okay, they didn't kill this man when they arrested him. He wasn't beat up. He was never called a terrorist. Um,
nope.
the way he was handled, I mean, George Floyd died because he was selling, I don't know, was he selling cigarettes or something?
No, he
They
wasn't
couldn't
doing
arrest
anything
him.
like that.
He wasn't,
He
but he couldn't get arrested without dying. This guy killed two people, tried to kill two other people, had a list. It was taken peacefully without any bruise. Clothes weren't dirty,
Yep,
nothing.
yep, that is true. That's just like that the man that killed those people at that church in South Carolina. They took him to McDonald's before they took him to jail, if you recall that. Um,
And I don't
so
know, it was the guy Kyle. I don't want to throw that name out there,
Kyle
but
Rittenhouse, yeah, sorry. The one that was a different one. Like he decided that,
gun in his
you know,
hand, right? Didn't he have a weapon in his hand?
yes, yes, he did. Yes, he did. He had
And he wasn't shot on sight.
no, he
Oh,
was
I thought
not.
I was in danger, you know.
No, he wasn't shot on sight. So what we do know from all of this is that the police can arrest people without killing them, but mostly they're white. So that is
I mean, even
back
mass
to,
murderers or double
yep,
murderers.
yep. Even
Yeah.
then, they can still get you without killing you. It's only if you're black and
Even
maybe
when you
you,
impersonate the law,
yes,
how egregious is
yes,
that? Somebody,
that is,
I asked my sweetie, I said, see, you would open the door. He said, I'm not sure I would have opened the door to somebody banging it 2 in the morning. I said, yes, you would have. And you would have gone butt naked while you were still trying to put on your bathrobe because you're the type when somebody knocks on the door. And then you think in the middle of the night, and if they're shouting police outside, you would have been, oh, that is just so fright. Under what? You're groggy. Then you're a rap. You're thinking, okay, this is something I need to know about. And then, the
yep.
police, I mean, I don't know, would a black person have opened the door? Because we're scared of the police. Are we more scared of the police? Would a black rep have opened the door?
Well, I don't know that I would have
Well,
opened the door.
maybe. I
I,
don't open
I,
the door in the middle of the day if I don't know you're coming. Because I'm likely not to be dressed, looking crazy. And I'm like, I work from home. Who's knocking on the door in the middle of the day? Like, it's like, are you going to come to my office and knock on the door?
yeah, exactly. That was all of that. I'm just so glad that they caught this person. And yeah, I'm so sorry for the families of the rep and his husband, her husband that died. The other two were managed to survive, even though they were both shot like 6 to 8 times. Um, their lives will never be the same. Uh, it's horrifying how people just get something in their head and they think that they're the good guys,
Now, you
that they're
know what?
doing the right thing.
And look what Minnesota did, okay? Because he had all those No Kings things, so nobody really knew what was going on. And they said, stay home. And the organizers were like, maybe stay home. Everybody came anyway. They
Yeah.
had to switch speakers, but people turned out anyway, which shows a lot about the human spirit. But I think I'm still shell shocked. And we know we've seen this, right? Judges getting shot or family
Yes.
members getting killed, coming to
Yes.
judges' homes,
Yep. Yep. That
representatives
just
getting
happened.
threatened. Representatives, local level, even what election officials getting threatened.
Yes. Election officials, basically anybody who is the symbol of their hate at the moment that they yeah, that
And he was
people
going for
are.
the abortion clinics or something. But I don't know if you
Yes.
saw that. So they interviewed his roommate.
Yeah, I did see that. And
He said he would hate to be called a
a
Democrat.
Democrat. Yeah, that's
He's
what.
like, I voted for Trump. Heck, nobody likes what anybody's doing. I was like, you know what? Okay, racist, you called yourself out. You know, I wouldn't have said I voted for Trump then and associate myself with some guy that a killer. I'd be like, okay, if you didn't already know, I'm not in that camp. But you don't go around just shooting people because, well, no, you don't. But he lived with him. And it's funny again how, portrayed in the news in the beginning, as if he was successful, had a successful firm. And then they peel back the layers. He was struggling.
Yes, he was struggling. He was also an appointee for some, like, I don't know, I can't think of the right word in English. It,
Well, Walt's governor had him on a bipartisan,
commission or something. Yeah.
yeah, before, but he's done, yeah. But I don't know. And church, Christian, right? Good Christian.
Yeah, there was
Hey,
did you see that clip of him speaking to some uh African congregation, and he was talking about, basically homosexuality and being transgender and stuff like that, and how bad it was, and how people in the United States don't even know what sex they are, and it's just like this man was clearly disturbed, and what people took as something normal, which I don't know why you would think that if you're struggling with your own life, but you manage to somehow get enough money to fly to Africa and preach hate to them, that's normal. That's not normal.
Well, his roommate didn't see any signs, right? So
Well,
we need to check him out too. You all be careful if y'all in this community too. I don't know. But I
yeah,
don't know. I think this
everybody.
shook up everybody because maybe I don't know if it starts to really feel real. I don't know when has it not been real? But when you see how the kind of people they were, and to know that someone can come to your door in a disguise of of figures that we are supposed to in a civil society respect, law enforcement. We're supposed to in a civil society. If we go around not respecting law enforcement, what kind of society do we have?
That is Trump's
Not all of them.
America.
Yeah. Um, Now the protests, we said they were over 2,000. And I was sad what happened in Salt Lake City. I don't really understand. Somebody had a gun and some of the
Yeah,
self-appointed peacekeepers
yeah.
went
Uh,
after him and shot into a crowd, and an innocent man was killed.
yeah, they tried to disarm a man with a rifle by shooting at him, I guess, which I don't understand that. But basically, this fashion designer was Arthur Folasa Alu. You said he was Samoan. He was in the crowd and he got accidentally killed by someone trying to disarm this guy. And that just, I just have to say something. You know, I know how to use a gun, and many people do. I don't, there's nothing necessarily bad about knowing how to shoot a gun, but most of us do not shoot well enough to pick a person off in a crowd of people. It's just that simple. So there's other ways to try to disarm someone than to shoot into a crowd. I would never do something like that because I'm 1,000% sure I would shoot the wrong person. And I'm a pretty good
Yeah, it
shot.
sounds tragic all around because if somebody did have a rifle, what were they going to do with it? And then, yeah, whoever thought shooting into a crowd is a good idea, that they could just pick this guy off like target practice.
Yeah,
Um,
that's not real. That's not real. You know, people watch too many movies or something like this. It's not real that you have to shoot someone. You have to be a really good shot to pick someone off in a crowd like that, and most of us are not. So,
Before we wrap up No Kings, we didn't say we were going to talk about it, but what have you seen on the news about the parade that happened on DC that day for the Army?
oh, the you mean the we hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yes, if something resonated with you, you learned something, or you want to take action.
Stay in touch with the Global Black Caucus. Our link trees in the show notes. And always remember, power to the people.